All right, welcome back to Resilient Voices and Beyond. This is episode 15. It has been a long time coming, and I'm going to say it every time. I truly appreciate all your support, not only listening to this podcast, but following and sharing and liking all the different aspects of what the work that I'm doing, attending the coffees and conversations and so forth. If you guys it's your first time listening to this, first time getting engaged with me, my name is Michael D. Davis Thomas. I spent a little bit over 11 years in the Michigan child welfare system. I've been working in child welfare in many different facets for a little bit over 10 years. And I'd like to say I'm continuing on that journey of self-healing and thriving and so forth. For me, that's a little bit about me, and hope you guys, are enjoying this journey. Please take the time, if you like this episode, to go back and listen to season 1 and the rest of the episodes of season 2. But without further ado, because you guys know I can talk, I'm gonna have my guest introduce himself.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. And for those listening, my name is Melvin Roy. I am currently a graduate student at Regent University, studying my Master's of Divinity with the concentration in spiritual formation. I spent about 4 years in the Richmond, Virginia foster care system, and just recently graduated from Old Dominion University with my bachelor's degree in human services with a minor in psychology.
Awesome, awesome. So doing great things, doing great things. Um, I'm not, I'm gonna get right into it with my first question because I'm interested in hearing more about you and your journey and how you got to where you are. So my first initial question is, where did your experience start? And feel free to share to whatever depths or comfortability.
Yeah, sure. So I think going back a little bit, my experience started in 2015, which was the year that I entered the system. So it was March 26, 2015 to be exact. Um, and my journey in the system was a roller coaster, of course, as many children can attest to. But I think that although it was a roller coaster, it was a ended up being a good ride. And I say that because after 4 years of going through multiple placements, so I was in 4 different placements all over the city of Richmond. I had 4 different families, and I think going through that, like I said, a roller coaster for sure, but a needed one because while I was in care and going through my own personal struggles, I was also able to, be around other kids who were going through the same things that I was going through, who were sharing the same experiences, and going through those experiences with those other youth kind of opened my eyes to the realities of the foster care system because my experience was just my experience, but everyone else's experience was an experience that needed to be paid attention to. And so I think, like, reflecting back, I look at it as a blessing, because what it did for me was it opened my eyes to the opportunity to advocate for those youth, the platform in which you could use to advocate for those youth, and just the wide range of opportunities that kind of pose itself when you're in the foster care system. So
Wow, wow. My next, and because you said you were in four foster homes,
yeah.
um, in Richmond. Um, did you end up staying with one and aging out? What was that transition like into adulthood from those places?
Well, so like I said, I was in 4, and so it was almost like one a year, roughly. But I ended up just transitioning from one to another. So one was like a year placement, another one was like I think 4 or 5 months. Then the next one ended up being like 6 months, and then the last one ended up being close to a year. Excuse me. And I think like the last one was right during my senior year. So I made the transition from being in that foster home to just going straight to my undergraduate university, Old Dominion University, which then from there kind of propelled my career and my success.
So, if you don't mind me asking, because I've spoken to a lot of different people, and your journey kind of started, in older age, and so forth, in the high school. Can I say that in
Yeah.
your high school experience? How did you navigate that? Emotionally, socially. Having not being at home or what have you. If you don't mind me asking, what was that like for you?
Well, I think at first it was a little challenging, as it probably would be for anybody in that circumstance. But I think as time kind of progressed, I shifted my perspective on the whole situation actually fairly immediately. I shifted my perspective and realized that, while I'm here in this situation, because I know I didn't want to, kind of make that turn and go backwards, which was, go back home. So I decided to explore and expand on all the opportunities that were presented to me through like the foster care placement agency that I was in care through. So United Methodist Family Services offered support, resources, outlets for me to kind of share my voice, to kind of find myself and, really give back to those youth. And so while I think the grander side of my story kind of started taking place when I got to college, the foundation was laid while I was in foster care because I understood and recognized the opportunities, the resources, and the potential that was right in front of me. And instead of turning away from it, I decided to explore it to its fullest extent, because I knew that doing that would kind of give me a trajectory for my life.
Awesome, awesome. So, essentially, did you age out, or what was that specific term that was given to you going into college?
Well, so I decided to do extended foster care. So
Mhm.
I ended up staying in the foster care system technically till I was 21.
Okay, so I know what extended foster care is. In my state, it's called YVAC. I don't know if it's the same, in the state that you were in. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit of what that means to be in extended foster care.
Yeah, sure. So in Virginia, it's called Fostering Futures, and within Fostering Futures, once you turn 18 and you apply to be in Fostering Futures, the IL program, so they call it. Um, the requirements just kind of looked like you either had to have a full time job or be in school. So for me, I was in school full time, and my university was considered my placement because my last foster placement decided to in their relationship with me after I went on to college, which was perfectly fine. And so my school became my placement, and every month for about 4 years, I received a stipend to take care of myself and have my needs met. And also, in addition to that, I was also eligible for the education training voucher, where I was able to support and finance my school.
Awesome, awesome. So, what did you go into school for? Did it switch up or anything in those beginning times, or did you just go in like, I know what I want to do? Yeah.
Well, actually, no, I didn't stay on one path. So I went in with the intent of becoming a lawyer. So I started with political science, but in the middle of my political science degree, actually within the first year or semester, I should say, I realized that this wasn't for me. So I made a pivot and went towards criminal justice because I, wanted to work for the FBI. And then after, taking up those courses, they were quite interesting, very intriguing to say the least. But I realized this isn't for me either. And so then I switched again to human services with a minor in psychology and realized that I was in the right place just because of the content being shared and, kind of what it did for me mentally. Excuse me, especially after coming through those experiences that I went through as a child. I realized that a human services degree was probably the best route that I could have taken for myself.
Awesome, awesome. So you spoke about it briefly. You were able to manage the situation, very, very, I don't know, I'm gonna say we're easily from, but um how did you do that? What tools and tips did you, or was it a learn as you go? From those four foster homes to extended foster care to undergrad, like, you know, um, did about self care initially? Did you utilize self care tools? Did you have mental health, services, or therapy or anything like that that helps you? Or some people don't even utilize mental health. They maybe got a spiritual advisor, they go to church, or what have you. What helped you sustain what you wanted to reach?
Myself. I think that's the start. I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly where I wanted to go with my life, my narrative, and my story. And so I think that was the key, was me myself knowing, because a lot of people rely on the external but don't really focus on the internal. And once you get the internal together, then the external kind of shapes itself. And so once I kind of made my mind up about the trajectory of my life and where I saw it going and the opportunities that I had, then I just started to kind of, I guess, lay the foundation within myself. And then once when I was able to do that, everything just kind of happened naturally. The people came naturally to support me. The resources kind of appeared naturally. I mean, it was almost like divine timing. That's what I call it. And I always say that I truly believe in my heart that God orchestrated every step that I took throughout that time in my life. And that, you know, even though it wasn't, like the best situation in the world, it definitely was much better than what I was going through. And I always thank God for allowing me to pivot that direction and really, I guess, lay that foundation internally and externally so that I could, sustain and kind of progress my life.
I really like that. It reminds me. I would get asked when I started out doing panels and advocacy. I was young then, so my story was, concise, but it had a lot of colorful language still to
Yeah.
it. I remember getting asked, well, who was that magic special person that helped you out, and who, did this, or was it a staff member, and I would tell them, like, no, it was, really myself. And it's really awesome to hear that, because you know being an advocate and being a person in this field, sometimes it can be assumed that you had these people and these people were there for you, or because this is what the resources are, it got to be one special person that has been there. And
Yeah.
the reality is, I can say for myself, it wasn't a lot of people, and that's why I am who I am, to be that person or to be present, so no one else has to be without.
Right.
I can't supplement for every single person, but I know that I did not have that person. I was on a work meeting the other day, and we something had came across where he showed a clip of the father scene of Fresh Prince of Bel Air,
Mhm.
where he's going off, his dad left and everything like that. He's talking to Uncle Phil, and I was like, I related to that scene because I remember being in placement. We got TV time, and one of the things we got to watch were, Martin or TV One, where
Mhm.
there was Fresh Prince and different things like that going on. I was like, those television shows, those male figures in there raised me,
Yeah.
So when I got out and got out of my institutionalization, because I had to get over that first. I wasn't really even in the world and for about 18 to 20. I was just there because it was so much mental I had to unpack. Um, when I got out in the world after getting over that, it was very cartoonish because the only representation of how to be a man, how to be out in society was what I saw on television.
Yeah.
You know, so that, I say all that, because that resonated with me. You know, you mentioning yourself in that, but also you having that ground to stand on, as far as your faith. I can resonate with that as well. You've been doing advocacy for a little bit of time here, and you've done some work, to say the least.
Yeah.
You've done some work, you've made some noise. Um, what would you say, is your goal? Your goal with what you do and what you're doing.
I think I think my goal is to um hmm, let me put it like this. So I'll never forget I was at a conference back in foster care. It was through this organization called Project Life, and we were sitting on the floor. It was like we were in Northern Virginia, and we were sitting on the floor, and it was just me and a couple of the other youth, and we were all talking. And I was asking some of the kids, I was like, are you all going to go to college? And the kids were telling me, well, no, because it costs too much, or so and so told me that I'm not good enough, or I can't do it, and this, that, and the other. And I thought to myself in that moment, I said, well, you know what? I'm going to do something in my life that's going to show these kids that they can do it, that they can rise above this situation. And so my goal, honestly, is to be a symbol of like success. And so people can see that, like, I can rise above my circumstances, I can triumph and become something great despite my life story and the things that happened to me when I was young. Because I also realized that from the age of 1 to, honestly, some cases 18, you don't have control on what goes on in your life. And you know there are so many external factors that control how you maneuver, how you operate, how you think, how you breathe in some situations. And I think that a lot of kids in foster care get so bogged down on that phase in their life that they feel like that phase is like the end. But one thing that I've come to see, that I've come to realize, you look at all these world leaders, these people in high leadership roles, nobody has a perfect story, no one has a perfect narrative. And we all have the opportunity to spin our narrative and change it at any time and become what we desire. And so after coming out of that situation, I knew what I wanted out of my life. I know exactly what I want to look back on 30 years from now and smile about. I know exactly where I want to be 30 years from now, um, because I was able to recognize that and understand that your situation is just a moment, and like I said, you have the power to change it. And so, like I said, my goal ultimately is to be that symbol of success, power, and just being able to show kids that it's just a moment, and that moment will pass.
I love that. Wow. Dropping so many breadcrumbs, just dropping so many. Um, that reminds me, I remember being in juvenile hall, and it was a pastor that was preaching, and he talked about, in life there's pit stops. You
Yeah,
gotta stop at those gas stations, refuel, get your snacks and stuff like that, but don't be stationary at those pit stops, because there's a destination ahead of you,
yeah,
um and when I think about what you said about your goal and being that um symbol, recently, somebody, I was posting something, and somebody was like, well, hey Michael, you out there, I see you getting famous and stuff like that. I'm like, I immediately almost, like, not almost, I took offense to it, because I just was like, nah, that ain't me, I'm
yeah,
still here, like in the work, trying to get things going. I'm not perfect, I'm not this, that, and the third. I'm just little old Michael, just trying to
Yeah.
make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And I was racking my brain of why I got offended by that, why I was so mad by that. And I realized that, um, just going back to an epiphany I had a while back ago, that I'm not doing this work for myself. Everything that I've been through was not just for me, you know. And with that being said, I'm a person, I believe in God, and so forth. I believe that, for me, that um this is my ministry,
Yeah.
advocacy, and everything else. I can't sing in the choir and stuff like that. I sung choir, but some people can sing. I can sing. It
Yeah.
ain't, and this is what I got. In order to fully do that, I'm be put in some very comfortable positions, and just getting comfortable with that, because I remember one time ago where I like to sit in the shadows, and it was like, no, I'm chill out and stuff like that. But I remember my first initial time advocating was when I felt one of the guys in my unit in a residential facility was being treated wrong.
Yeah.
And that kind of just sparked something in me. And that's, I was like, all right, I guess can't go back to being quiet now.
Yeah.
So I had to just realize, it's not essentially about me, but I am gonna, be giving that platform. It's what I do with that platform, you know. And essentially, as you see this, um the goal of what I do here, you know, is to help, eventually get other people to do this, get other people to share their stories, get other people to get on that road of healing, get people to understand that there's multiple different facets to thriving,
Yeah.
because you probably know as well as I do that, within the child welfare system and sometimes within some of these programs, they have this idea of this is what it looks like to be specifically successful,
Yeah.
and it's kind of projected not just to be successful, but to be happy in life. You got to be there, and
Yeah.
that's not exactly true. So my goal is to just be able to share all those different walks of life and so forth. So I appreciate you sharing that. My next question is, more so kind of diving into your expertise. You do a lot of different things. You have done a lot of different things in the advocacy realm. Um, you mind sharing a little bit of your work and so forth, and telling us about Foster You?
Yeah, sure, of course. And before we continue, I do want to touch on one thing that also I think allows me to continue to progress on this path called success. My first foster mother, um, used to always say to me, because I used to be very high strung on materialistic things. And so she noticed that, and she would always say constantly, Melvin, when you pass, people won't remember the house you lived in or the car you drove. They're going to remember whose life did you touch and what difference did you make. And, for a short period of my life back then, I didn't understand what she was saying. I didn't get it. But as time went on and she kept repeating herself, it then began to sink in, forgive me. And I think once I began to understand the world through that lens and realize that, that really is the case. When you look at notable famous people who have passed along, you think about Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson. They're not known for the house they lived in or, whatever car they were driving up and down the road. They're known for their impact and the work that they did to give back to their communities, whether it be through song or, community service or whatsoever. And so I think also as I've been embarking on this path of success, I've always kept that on the forefront of my mind. That simple quote, whose life did you touch and what difference did you make? Um, because that is important. That's what I want people to remember about me when, God calls me home is, the things that I was able to do for them and the joy and happiness that I've been able to spark in their hearts and their lives because, I found it within my own. Now, kind of pivoting just a little bit, I, now the work that I've done a lot and I didn't realize I was doing a lot until I got to this point of like looking back. But I've engaged in quite a few internships within this child welfare space. So, being able to intern with Foster Club, Congressional Coalition on Adoption Institute, where I wrote a federal policy report on establishing trust funds for youth in foster care. And then, after that, embarking on an experience where I was able to intern with Congresswoman Karen Bass, who is a huge champion for foster care and the rights of youth in foster care. So that was an exceptional experience. And then also the founding of my own organization, Foster U, and the U stands for University. And our goal is to encourage higher education at foster youth through community service, mentorship, and workshops. And I started that organization based on that conversation I had with those youth back then at that conference. Um, and I started that my freshman year of college and decided to just expand and grow on it as I went through my time in my university. And, I think as I continue to look forward to what the future kind of holds in store for my life and things that I've kind of poured seeds into, um, I see Foster U becoming a very huge organization that is designed around kind of supporting foster youth in their journey to higher education because you also realize that a lot of foster youth don't successfully graduate from higher education. The number's only 3%. And, that needs to change. We need more champions in our foster youth's corner to help them see that, 4-year universities are an outlet because it was one for me. So,
Definitely. Definitely. I love that so much. I've been, taking a look at Foster U and some of the work you've done. We've crossed paths a couple times. It's weird because in the advocacy realm, you can meet somebody virtually. you can meet somebody in a but not actually meet somebody.
yeah,
And it's crazy because you know I don't think so many people know that when Foster alumni meet each other, but not really be like it don't matter. Like you fam,
yeah,
So it's just through those experiences and watching you and observing because I can't speak today. Uh, observing your actions and your walk through the work that you're doing. I truly commend that, and I appreciate that. Um yeah, and a big thing for myself, I was talking to Cortez, which is another alumni I had on here. He works with one of the caucuses, uh and I told him the same thing. It's inspiring to see other people that look like me
yeah,
making it, you know and I use that word making it lightly because I don't want anyone to put any particular material thing to it,
yeah,
you know to just see you still here,
right,
because I can go, that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day of the mental battle of being a black man, nonetheless being a black man, enduring trauma, and then having to make it through that and
yeah,
be exceptional, you know, and so forth. So that's something I commend you, and I do that. I guess some people. You out here watching people, Michael? Yes, I am, because I want to know how I can grow and be better. I'm 25, but I'm never done learning, and so forth. Like I mentioned earlier in this, coming into this episode, that I'm still on my journey of healing and thriving. I've done much, much of the healing in my story. I've done a lot of that work, but throughout life, I'm still going to get scarred.
Yeah.
I'm still going to get bruised. So actively setting myself up to endure the battle that is ahead
Yeah.
sets me up to be successful and to continue to do this work as long as possible.
Yeah.
You know, I'm on a mission, and part of that mission, it's so many things that spin around in my head, and I'm sure the same thing for you. One is to find a way to build equity for our community,
Yeah.
also provide education and support without barriers,
Yes.
you know. Um, I would love for that to be a 4-year degree, but also I understand that ain't everybody's mission. you know?
Right.
So I just want you to get you something that gives you something to leave behind, because that's the conversation we don't really talk about.
Right.
Is at the end of the day, when something happens, how are you set up?
Yeah.
I experienced when I ended up leaving college, went into the working world, I didn't build that sense of community. I don't know if you took the Jim Casey assessment, but it asks you, do you got somebody that you could call on to get $500 or $300? I ain't got nobody that I can call on. Do you got somebody that all these different questions about that? And I'm like realizing I don't have that. And to my surprise, or not even surprise, when one thing happened, a domino effect happened in my life, and I ended up homeless because I did all the logistical work, go to work, do this. But it's more to life in the social sense, in the community sense, and having that village to be able to sustain
Yeah.
yourself. And unfortunately, because of some of the message that was conveyed to me that you make it here, you good, I built a mental block, and there was some pride, and I didn't ask for help, you know, and I had to face a hard lesson. And I was homeless. I, slept on the bench, slept in vehicles and so forth. And for me, I don't know about nobody else in their homeless experience. I can only speak about myself. But being homeless is the best thing that happened to me. I ain't had no bills. I ain't had nothing to take care. So it was really simple, and I know that sounds
Yeah.
crazy. Some people are like, you enjoy being homeless. I didn't enjoy it, but I was at peace because all I had to focus on is how was I going to get out of this, Michael?
Yeah.
If this is my rock bottom, how was I going to go further?
Yeah.
And so many people in life, are going through that same thing. So that's my little tangent. That's my little ramble on. Um, but I truly appreciate what you are doing and so forth with your life and through the work that you're doing. Um, Anything else you would like to share with us? Like, I know you got your hand in a lot of different things. I know you talked about, school and everything, what's you talked about foster you expanding, but what's next? Because I've seen you've done multiple things at once. So I gotta ask, is that everything that's in the pot, or is it something else you're thinking about?
Um, I think that's a fabulous question. I think what's next, you know, honestly, I've come so far, have done so much, but now I think I'm in a period of my life where God is going to reveal what's next for me. I think that I've done so much, I've touched as many lives as I possibly could in my little 22 years of being on this earth. Um, that now I am kind of allowing God to orchestrate what I walk into next. Now being a newly graduated adult in society, and looking to step into a higher role. I think I'm still figuring that out myself. Of course, obviously, still involved and engaged in advocacy work. So, I am a board member for a couple of organizations, so that continues my advocacy efforts. And then also still trying to revitalize Foster U and bring it to a new place. But in addition to those two things, I think there will be something else that kind of falls into the horizon for me, and when it does, we'll all see at the same time. So
I love that. I love that. I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability. Truly, I truly do. Um, any advice you would like to leave here today, or give or offer up?
I think I think some good advice that I could leave is to follow your heart and to stay true to yourself. I think that throughout my time in the system in college, I've never strayed away from myself. I've never, I've had moments, of course, we all have moments, but I've always remembered my why and why I was doing what I was doing. And because I never forgot my why, that's why I was able to excel to the heights that I've been able to excel to. And, just knowing that like the future is coming, knowing that a new day is coming, a brighter day is coming, and keeping that in the front of my mind as well. So knowing my why and also knowing that a new day is coming um is like the two best things that you could possibly do for yourself, because it gives you a new perspective, it gives you a new outlook, and it also kind of it changes the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you kind of view your life and the world around you. um and so I think that because I was able to instill those things in myself at such a young age, that now I have the opportunity, or I guess yeah, I would say the opportunity to really explain, excuse me, Jesus, explore all that life has to offer. Um, because now you get to a point where you realize the sky is the limit, and I've realized that the sky is the limit. And how did I realize that? Well, by staying true to myself and following my heart, and remembering why I'm doing what I'm doing. And when you walk with purpose, when you walk with distinction, when you walk with, how can I say it, this purpose, distinction, but also like a certain level of power, that you realize that you yourself hold within. It just it it changes you. And I've had the privilege and opportunity to know what that feels like and to be changed because of those wonderful aspects. And so that would be the advice I would give, is to hone in on those things, hone in on your story, hone in on your understanding of where your life is going, and from that, develop and kind of mold the tools that you need to reach your goals and your destiny for your life.
Definitely, definitely. Couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have said it better. Any last comments, and I typically, how I ask this question, got a rap song, album, whatever you want to share, book, what have you, but how can people get connected or follow the work that you're doing?
I think that one way people can stay connected and tuned in with Melvin is by just continuing to follow on social media like LinkedIn. Um, my name on there just being Melvin Roy, or staying connected with me on my Instagram, which is like Melly Roy underscore, which kind of just showcases my true self, and kind of touches on my life story just a little bit. But also staying up to date with my organization website, to like Foster U, the website being www.fosteruniv.org. Um, but yeah, that's what I would say in terms of staying connected, and in terms of like any final words or anything that I want to share or promote. There's nothing that I want to promote other than, you know, just by saying that, like I said earlier, the sky's the limit. And so for those who decide to listen to this episode to, all the way to the end, just remember that. And, keep your dreams at the forefront of your mind. I think in today's society, we don't talk about our dreams enough anymore. We don't focus on what we want our futures to look like because we're so caught up in the moment. But now understanding that each moment is just a moment, and your next moment could be much greater than your present moment. And so always just remembering your why and remembering the goals and dreams you have for your life. And every day is an opportunity to continue to chase them. And, you should do just that.
Definitely, definitely. Well, it's truly been an honor and a privilege having you on, and hearing your story, and truly appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability sharing that with us today. You guys, this has been a journey, listening to these stories and listening to these individuals' experiences. And I don't know about y'all, but I feel like I take little bits in, and grow every time that I interview someone and hear about their journey and their experience and so forth. So, I hope that it's doing the same for you guys. If not, start from the beginning all over again. But I know we've touched on some things that can be potentially triggering today. So I just want to say, if something was triggering, you made it to the end of this episode, please don't just go about your day. Take a minute to breathe, debrief yourself, do some mindfulness exercises, do something, self-care wise to just get yourself back centered, I just want to say, if something, that triggers you that you haven't dealt with or what have you, my email, you guys, if you're following this, my contact is involved somewhere in this, So connect with me, I'm willing to talk and willing to listen or connect you to resources and so forth. I also want to say Giving Tuesday is coming up. And I've had a world of different organizations, CEOs, um, individuals, that have organizations like Foster You and so forth. If you're thinking and you're trying to figure out who you want to give back to, I have over people on different episodes. You can look into these episodes and be like, well, I really resonated with their mission. There you go. I ain't gonna pinpoint any direct one, but I want to, make sure that this work continues on. Don't mind me, I got something in my eye. Y'all can't see it, but um, this work continues on, and we need to support each other to be able to do that. So take a look, if you want to, support the podcast. The podcast is here. I'm gonna be here as long as y'all want me, and as long as people are willing to talk to me, But please, if you're thinking about it and you're not really sure, it's a lot of lived experience, and I'm gonna say it. Some people gonna be mad. Lived experience, people running organizations that can use your support. you know. So that's just some food for thought for this holiday season. Um, Outside of that, cold flu season is coming up. I'm gonna say it because I don't want nobody else getting sick. I don't want nobody else, leaving this world too early. Please take care of yourself. It takes all of us to do our part. We learned a hard lesson through COVID. We don't need to learn no more. So if you're feeling sick, what have you, get that hand sanitizer, get the mask. Please do not use your hand sanitizer as a supplement for soap. Please go wash your hands after you use that sanitizer a couple times. You can be mad at me all you want to, as long as you're still alive. But please take care of yourself. This is Resilient Voices and Beyond. I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you guys staying tuned. I appreciate you guys just being here, and listening. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. So thank you. Episode 15 of season 2. More to come. Be ending season 2 at the end of December. I had been thinking about pushing it back to be able to get more episodes in, but I think I'm going to end it at the end of December, and I'm going to take a little break from recording to really focus on the Resilient Voices and Beyond initiative and bridging those gaps with people and communities. So I hope you guys have a good night, good morning, good whenever you're listening to this. Just let it be good. Thank you. Talk to you guys soon.